We are good to go now. Take it away.
All right. So I am so happy to be introducing the amazing LeeAnn Marie Webster, who's going to be telling us all about virtual event secrets, which is what we're doing today. And boy, do we need this information. She's an email marketing strategist and international speaker who's produced more than 100 virtual events. She works virtually with clients across the globe and is the creator of Email with HEART, which spells heart. Email with Heart. She helps entrepreneurs build, grow, and nurture their email lists. She's got 20 years experience in marketing and business development in a range of industries. She's also a digital nomad. Happy to see that, me too. Having spent a full year traveling the US and doubling her business over the course of a year. She's been featured in the Huffington Post, WGN Radio, Los Angeles Times, and various national and local media outlets. So LeeAnn, take it away.
Cool, thank you so much. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I'm so excited to be here today and to be just sharing what I've got up here and right here in my head and in my heart with you all. So let me just do a quick screen share because I've got some slides I want to share. And I love questions. There's definitely time for it today. And I find that that's the best way for me to make sure what I'm talking about makes the most sense for you and is super applicable to where you're at and what you're doing. So please use that Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen there. I'm doing this because that's, if you move your mouse down to the bottom, the Q&A tab will pop up. So do that or the chat or however you can send the signal over. I'm happy to answer your questions. So let me just do a screen share here. Let's see, let's do that, and let's do this from the beginning. All right, here we go. So what I'm going to talk about today is, yes, virtual event secrets, or what I like to call giving your business a virtual makeover. So here's the deal. You don't need me to tell you that the world is changing fast. And the in-person strategies that we used a mere few weeks ago just really aren't going to fly right now with where we're at. They're not valid. I don't say they're not valid. They're not viable in this moment. And we don't know what's going to be viable once we get to the other side of this and back to a normal or a new normal. We don't know what that looks like yet. So what I'm looking at with this session is to just look at how fast can you pivot? How fast can you pivot now? And then how fast can you pivot into what becomes the new normal? And the key here really is taking these in-person experiences that we're used to having and that we will have again for sure. But how can you take those in-person experiences and change those into a virtual experience? How can you pivot what you're delivering and still deliver the same incredible results that you always deliver? We want to change the delivery. We don't necessarily want to change the outcome. We still want the outcome, of course, to be amazing. So by the end of our time together today, we're going to know how to shift your mindset into this new virtual world. And I know that the peace part of the summit and Rhonda, who's incredible, I feel so honored to be coming on here after Rhonda. We're going to look at how we need to shift our mindset, how to create a tactile experience even in a virtual setting, some key technology for everyone to embrace, and I'm going to give you my 3 virtual event success secrets. And of course, Q&A. Like I said, type in those questions because I love getting those questions. A little bit about me, as Elizabeth said in the opening, I have produced I'm a virtual event producer and an email marketing strategist. I've got 20 years marketing and business development experience, and I'm an attorney. Don't hold that against me. That's the thing that not everybody knows about me. And I have produced more than 100 virtual events. And the virtual events that I've produced have been everything from 1 or 2 or 10-day summits, like what you're experiencing now. I've done those in a pre-recorded format. I've done those in a live format. I've also done 3-day retreats. I've done hour-long trainings. I've kind of covered the range of the different kinds of virtual events that you can produce. And I did, as Elizabeth mentioned, live as a digital nomad for a year. These are some fun facts from my trip. I literally sold 80% of my belongings, or got rid of 80% of my belongings. I didn't sell everything and gave a lot of stuff away, and traveled the US for a year. And these are some fun facts from that year. And then I also have been servicing my clients globally or virtually around the globe. Let me get my second cup of coffee hasn't kicked in yet today. So serving clients virtually around the globe for almost 9 years now in this iteration of my business. And what's really interesting and just so timely for everything that happened is I had an experience about 6 weeks ago where I have my Lead Machine Weekend, which is a 3-day in-person event. I had delivered it 10 times already, and this was the 11th time about 6 weeks ago. And just through happenstance, nothing to do with Corona, but through happenstance, this weekend that I had only ever delivered in person, and I was in fact very attached to delivering in person. Because my business coach a couple of times had said, "Can you do that virtually?" And I was like, no, it's got to be in person. It has to be an in-person experience. And through circumstance, I ended up having virtual attendees. And this was even, I had people who had like booked their flights and everything, but just for things that happened beyond anyone's control, they weren't able to make it. And that really shifted my mindset. And thankfully it shifted it just in time for what would be coming down the pike in the form of everyone needing to go virtual. And so what I learned was I could take all the skills, everything I'd learned from doing all these other virtual events, and not only use it to make my own event a success, but also to help clients make their events a success and looking at it through a little bit of a different lens. I am also from Chicago, my sweet home, Chicago. I love this beautiful city. And I just have to give a shout out right now. I don't know if anyone's from Chicago or if anyone is following what's happening in Chicago, but we have some hilarious memes of our mayor who has been giving these strict, of course, stay-at-home orders, which, you know, everyone needs to stay at home. But if you get a chance, just Google Chicago mayor memes or stay-at-home memes or something like that, because there are some pretty funny ones and giving a little lightness to the situation. And she actually likes it too. She's in on it too. I'm also a runner and an Ironman, and if we ever do talk directly, ask me about the Ironman. I've got some crazy Ironman stories, and it was just a wild experience. So anyway, let's turn back to the business side. And I always like to start with why. Why do I love virtual events so much? And what's in it for you, frankly? Why should you even care about turning things virtual? So here's some things to keep in mind with virtual events. Virtual events will help you grow your audience without limits. So you can grow your audience in the sense of building an email list through this, and you can grow your audience just in terms of just the reach. You no longer are bound by whether someone can make it physically to your location. You now can literally reach people around the globe. Virtual events also help you position yourself as an expert in your field. So here's a slice of when I was on a virtual event about 2 years ago with Russell Brunson as one of the other speakers. And so that helped my credibility a lot. Russell Brunson is the creator of ClickFunnels. He's really well known in the online and internet business space. And so for me to be positioned with him was a great thing. Even today, you know, having Rhonda Britton on, being on the same panel on the same day with Rhonda Britton, and of course with all the other amazing speakers that are in the summit, helps me to be positioned in a way that that is positive. What I'm looking for, positive. And that serves for everybody who hosts or who speaks on virtual events. It will also help you make money. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making money, even in this climate, even with what's going on. There's nothing wrong with setting up your business in a way that helps you to make money and helps you to thrive, because that can have the ripple effect of helping a lot of other people. It also helps you create content, recording interviews that you do, recording events that you host. You can turn those into emails, to blog posts, to ebooks. You can take the videos and the audios and post those in different mediums. You can pull quotes from them for Instagram, for Facebook, even for LinkedIn. You can use them for articles for LinkedIn. So taking virtual events and taking the content that comes from the virtual event and then leveraging it in multiple ways is a huge, huge reason for making sure you record that. Virtual events also help you get more speaking gigs. I've actually had more speaking gigs in the last 6 weeks than in all of Q4 of last year. And part of that is, of course, because of my topic, because, you know, focusing and specializing in virtual events and in email marketing, you know, it's a hot topic, so to speak. And one reason I know that I've had more opportunities lately is because I was able to adapt really quickly and say, yeah, I'm comfortable with Zoom. Yes, I'm comfortable talking this way. Yes, I'm comfortable and confident that I can still deliver great content, even though I'm not on a stage and in a way that I frankly love being on a stage. And because I was able to pivot, it's created a lot more opportunities for me. And frankly, there's more virtual opportunities coming up now because we don't know how long this is all going to be going. You know, and that's the thing. We don't know what the how long this kind of what's become normal is going to last, and we don't know on the other side of it what the new normal is going to be. And so, being able to pivot, being able to engage with your audience in a different way is a massive asset, and it's going to, and I think it's going to carry into how we all do business a little bit differently. I know for me with the experience of that lead machine weekend, I went into it saying, I don't know, I'm gonna see if this works. And then by the end of it, I was like, my next one's gonna be virtual no matter what. And I decided that before all the Corona stuff started getting really heavy. But now here I am positioned with an event in May that is gonna be completely virtual. And it turns out, because I was able to make that pivot early, then I'm really well prepared to still deliver what I need, and I'm actually still registering people into it. That makes sense. Yes, that makes sense. All right, so let me take a quick sip of coffee. And first I'm going to give you my 3 keys for this virtual pivot. So key number 1 is shift your mindset. And the question that I like to ask, I won't spend a ton of time on this. I know there's a whole day yesterday that was, and Rhonda, I know, talks about mindset and looking at how you're interacting with the world. And I just want to pose the question of just consider, who do you want to be? I mean, we're in this, we will get through it. And the question is, who are going to be on the other side? You know, who are we going to, in, you know, 3 months or 6 months or even 12 months or 5 years, when we look back to this time, are we going to say like, yeah, I really handled that in the best way possible. And I'm really proud of how I stepped up. And that doesn't mean that, you know, we won't have emotional times, but it's just what I want to position here, what I want to talk about here is that now is the time for speakers and coaches and thought leaders to really step up into leadership, to demonstrate who we are and what we're about and how we can serve our audience in a new and a different way. This is our calling. This is our time for it. And yeah, there's still going to be emotional times. There's still going to be times when you Netflix and chill with your buddies, Ben and Jerry. I've certainly done that. And I know that there's going to be other times, there's going to be more times when I do it. I'm not suggesting we put a Pollyanna on this and act like nothing is wrong. And I am saying that there's an opportunity for us here to learn how to be differently, and also learn how to process those emotions and handle those emotions and explore those emotions in a positive way so that we can become who we want to be on the other side. The question, I think, really becomes, are we going to be that? Are we going to let this fuel us, right? Is this going to be an opportunity that we take and take the opportunity without being opportunistic? Are we going to step into our leadership here? And are we going to how will we react to this? I remember I had a business when 9/11 happened. I actually had a live event business. I was had a speed dating business, And my first entrepreneurial venture ever was, I had the largest speed dating company in Southern California. And I had just opened in 2001. And so when 9/11 happened, of course, the business just stopped. No one was getting together. No one was going out. People were scared. There was a lot of fear. And so September 2001 was like the worst business of my month and worst month of my business. I had just been in business that year. So it was incredibly challenging time. And October 2001 was the best month in my business, and it took off after that. And that's because everyone's priorities shifted, and there were opportunities that came to me in terms of locations and contracts and things that became available to me because of 9/11 that weren't available to me before. And because of all of these shifts and all of these relationships and things that I had built before that happened, I was able to leverage that, and literally my business took off after. So that's just the mindset I want to posit to you. And the real question here is, looking at, we are going to get to the other side, of course, and there's going to be things we want to take with us. And there's going to be things that we want to leave behind, throw in the trash can and burn. So you just get to decide which one what you want to do, which one you want to take forward and which one you want to throw in the can and burn. All right, so our second key here is to think tactile. What can you incorporate from your in-person experience, especially if you're used to delivering your content in person? What can you take from that and still turn it into a tactile experience for your virtual attendees? So here's something I want to look at is sending a care package to your people. In that 3-day event that I talked about, when I had those virtual attendees kind of at the last minute, I sat back and I thought, what is it that I want them to experience? I still want them to feel like they're going on a journey with me, and I still want them to show up as if they came to Chicago instead of, sitting behind on their computer in their same old circumstance. So I sent them, I called it a care package. I got to come up with some snappy name for it. But in that, I included a lanyard that they would have gotten if they had it in person. I included the workbook. I included Play-Doh and like a little squishy toy, because part of that weekend is about being creative. So I included tactile things that everybody then had, so we could engage ourselves a little bit differently. I included snacks because, part of what I do in the weekend is I set out snacks for, people get a little 2-3 o'clock hungries. Next time I'm going to include a little bag of Garrett's popcorn. I'm going to make it tied to Chicago. But my point here is just to think through what are the ways that you can make that a little bit more of a tactile experience. And also pre-frame your, when you're enrolling someone into your event, especially if it's something like a 3-day retreat and something where you're going to be spending a little bit more time together, I would really enroll them in having their state of mind shift and have them attend as if they're attending in person. And so what that looks like is I had the attendees, they talked to husbands and, husbands, spouses and their kids. And they made sure that the door was shut and there was a sign on the door, there was a sign on the desk to indicate that they were in a conference so that they wouldn't get disturbed. They wouldn't have all the, people running through the room or different things like that. I also suggested that they wear clothes as if they came networking instead of being in the yoga pants. A couple people even wore shoes. So they made sure instead of being in slippers, so they really stepped into that role. And so that's a conversation I had with everyone, and I highly recommended that you get them into that mindset as if they are literally leaving the house. What are the things they would do if they were literally leaving the house? Take a shower, do all that stuff. And remember, of course, that they're going to be on video. So we want to make sure that they're ready to be on video. Want to make sure that, my rule was you can't hide behind putting your photo up. You know, you can't be a lurker in the conference. You need to be, especially because it was a creative retreat, and part of what we do is mastermind, and we share ideas with each other. And so you couldn't just have your photo up, you had to show up as if you would have showed up in person. Another thing in the tactile experience is just to look at what else can you do during the event that can help stir up that physical energy a little bit. We did the waving hands. So whereas normally in a room, you know, we would be clapping for people if they said something really interesting. This time we did the virtual applause. Our chat was on fire. It was actually one of the things between my event and then I helped my client also take a 3-day experience and turn it, a 3-day retreat, turn it into a virtual experience. And one thing we loved about that was the chat, because normally people would think of things and they might not be able to express them. They want to interrupt anybody when they're speaking, but in the chat, it was great because they could say, you know, you go, Susie, I love when you said this, or, you know, think about X or look at Y. And so there was a lot of support and a lot of love that came through on the chat that we hadn't experienced when we do the event actually in person. We also, with my client's event, we still took dance breaks, and we even did breathing exercises. That's, again, something that we do in person that you could easily do virtually. So we just had everyone, when they came back from a break, stand up. She went through the exercise, and then we just watched everyone do that. And that helped us with the physicality also, so that people weren't just sitting in front of their computer for the entire time, which can get a little bit, tiresome, quite frankly, and could be boring. We don't want to make it boring. So dance breaks are really fun too. We had music that we'd pipe in on the breaks. And so, and we'd encourage people to move so that they're moving blood through their body. Third key is we want to embrace technology. Of course, Zoom, boy, everyone and their mother knows about Zoom now, which just, for those of us who have been working virtually for a long time, it's kind of funny because I've been using Zoom for like 4 years or something. And you know, my entrepreneur friends all knew what Zoom was, but now everybody knows. It's so funny for me to see people trying to get used to using Zoom because they're clearly not used to it. One of the funniest things I've seen about this recently is this woman who paused held her meeting, and she accidentally turned herself into a potato during the meeting, and she wasn't able to shift it back. So everybody embraces technology in their own way. Something you can do to help people with this, and I'm actually making it, this one I cribbed off the internet the other day, but I have my designer making one that's a little prettier, but it's nice to just think in terms of, will your audience know how to use the technology, and how can you help them so that they have a good experience? Because again, we want to have that, we want to have them be as comfortable as possible when they're coming to your event. And so I love this idea of just pointing out, you know, where all the things are on the little Zoom bar, and I'm actually even making a video. There's a platform called Loom, so it's like Zoom but with an L, and it's what do I want to say? Not a plugin, but it's like a little app. I can't think of the kind of like a little mini app. It's a Chrome extension, but I think now you can use it with other browsers. But at any rate, it's a free way. It's a screen capture and a video, so it captures audio and screen. And it's a great way for free to do some videos and catch what you're saying along with what you're showing on your screen. And so I created a video for my attendees that just literally walk them through how to log into Zoom. Because for people who aren't familiar with it, it can be a little bit like, what's going to happen? Do I need to download something? How do I get in? What do I do? So things like that you can do to help your attendees feel more comfortable and feel more confident in what they're doing will, of course, make them more at ease, and that just creates a better experience. Another thing you can do with Zoom is create breakout rooms. So with my client who had the 3-day retreat that it was just a few weeks ago, and we made it all virtual. And, you know, she, by the way, had been delivering this event. I don't even know how many times she has delivered it, probably 25 or so, but for probably more. She's been doing it for 5 years. It had always been in person. And so, so we use the breakout room feature of Zoom so we could do mastermind sessions in there. And then we also use the breakout rooms in a little bit of a different way. So we had a time during the event where typically the facilitators who would be at the event would be kind of going around to each of the attendees and, you know, looking over their shoulder and saying, you know, how's it going with X? How's it going with Y? Show me this. How can I help you with that? And really checking in with them on the progress they were making with the work we were doing. And so in order to do that virtually, there was a time where we put each of the attendees in their own room, in their own breakout room. And then as coaches and facilitators, we popped into the rooms and checked in on the people. And that way they had their own space to get their work done. And yet they were able to get private support from the coaches. So it's, again, looking at that delivery, looking at what you're creating, what you want your attendees to end up with, and then how can I do that in a little bit of a different way. Another thing I suggest is using WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a free app, and it's an easier way to send like text conversations or have group conversations. And so we created a WhatsApp for the event. This was for my client with the 3-day retreat. We created WhatsApp, and that way we could say, hey, we're back on in 5 minutes, don't forget, or, you know, here's the link for whatever. And we could just share some information and send some little reminders out in a way that was a lot easier than trying to do. Those group text conversations sometimes can be a little bit rough. I also highly recommend having an assistant with you virtually. Even if you're techie, even if you're comfortable with all of this, it's just nice, especially if it's a multi-day event, to have someone who is responsible for answering questions like, will this be recorded? Can I get a copy of the slides? Can I get that? How long are we gonna go today? Answering those questions, but also more importantly, handling those breakout rooms or connecting, doing a screen share to like a whiteboard or doing different things like that. Just so as the host and facilitator and presenter don't have to worry about all those little things, because all those little things maybe aren't a big deal, and yet they take a little bit away from your energy from when you're allowing yourself to just be fully present and fully in the moment with your attendees. All right, so that is our recap of the 3 keys for virtual pivot: shifting your mindset, thinking tactile, and embracing technology. And then now, this is my client who I just helped with that 3-day experience. And here's what was amazing. She was considering canceling the event. She was gonna cancel the event, or she was gonna move the people into a different in-person experience. And instead, we saved the event. We saved her about $20,000 in registration fees and reduced her event cost by 80%. 80%. She didn't have the hotel room. She didn't have the travel. She usually hosts the meal for everyone. So it's quite an amazing experience. And she still was able to not only help the clients who attended get their results, but also typically she uses that event to sell into a high-end year-long coaching program. And her results for that, for selling into that, were about the same as they were in-person events. So it didn't hurt the experience or people from taking the next step that she wanted them to take. All right, so now I've got 3 virtual event secrets. Now we've talked about the pivot. Now I'm going to talk about being in the actual event. And let me take a quick sip of coffee. And I see some questions coming in. So if you have them, put them in that little Q&A, move that mouse down to the bottom, hit that Q&A, or put them in the chat, and we'll grab them in just a few minutes. All right, so the secret number 1 for event is to think about the promise. Think about the promise of the event. And what helps here is if you have a clearly defined business and a clearly defined audience. So really, really taking that step back. And I know this probably sounds like, duh. And what I've seen is that the most successful events, actually this applies virtually or in person, the most successful events are ones where you really hone in on your audience and on what you're going to deliver to them in the event. You want to really speak to a problem that you can solve for them so that people connect for why they need to attend the event. So by way of example, my weekend that I held, Lead Machine Weekend, design, create, and set up your email marketing in 3 days. Pretty clear. You understand if you need to go to that. And this was Jennifer who attended that. And what she, the big promise of that event is that we get stuff done. So it's not a, I'm going to teach you how to do something and then you have to go figure it out kind of thing. It's a, let's roll up our sleeves and get it done. And that, by the way, was why I was nervous about doing it virtually, because I felt like we're usually next to you and looking over your shoulder and helping you with how to do things. And yet we still were able to deliver that result in a big way, even virtually. My client, Michelle, her event is Superstar Business Breakthrough Retreat. So it's a 3-day discover, design, and develop your business plan for freedom, fulfillment, and fun. And again, this was something that she delivered for years in person, but we were able still to deliver it in virtually and still create amazing results for clients. These are some, the next few events I'm gonna look at are virtual summits. Many of the events I've done are virtual summits, so similar to what we're doing today. And so what I want you to pay attention to with these virtual summits is just how much, how clear it is what the promise is and what the audience is. So this was the Metabolism and Weight Loss Summit, and my client Catherine added 10,000 subscribers to her email with this event. Here's one, Black Women Millionaires by Dr. Venus Opal Reese. If you have not spent any time with her, I highly recommend it. She's a pistol and she's got a pretty amazing story. And she was able to add 8,000 subscribers to her list with this particular event. Autism Hope Summit, Autism Hope Alliance, it's a nonprofit that helps parents of autistic children and just it helps the autistic community. They do beautiful work. And they were able to add 9,300 subscribers through their summit. And then this is my longtime client, Michelle Marchant Johnson, who hosts, she's a dating coach for single women, and she hosts Ready for the Right Guy, and then she hosts the Man Panel. So we'll talk about why and the results from it in a moment, but this is her, we're right now in the process of promoting her 6th version of Ready for the Right Guy. And with this series, with this Ready for the Right Guy series, which we're now in the 6th one, she's added more than 25,000 subscribers to her list just with this series. But you see what I'm showing you here, Ready for the Right Guy, you know who that's for, and if it's for you or if it's not. The second key for virtual event success is just to leverage your partners. So in this summit world, especially, the model works really well because it's like a one-to-many model. So there's one person who's the host, who is gathering speakers, gathering experts, and then all of those people are promoting out to their audience, to their mailing list, to their social media, to all of their community. And that is what drives those results, especially in the in this virtual summit model. That's what helps you gain all those subscribers. It's just a leverage. It's just the easiest way I can say it. It's how can we pull all these people together and reach as many people as possible collectively. So I've done the larger ones with 2030. I did a live one last year, which had 8 speakers total, 8 speakers including me, 8 speakers, 9 speakers including, 8 speakers including me. And that was a really cool experience to do it live, as I know Elizabeth and Scott and Juliet are experiencing today. Live has just a very different fun energy, and also can have interesting things happen if somebody messes up the time zone or something. With the Autism Hope Summit, what was really cool was, one of their goals is to expand their reach, to reach as many people as possible. And what was great about their event was, they were able to reach people all around the world. And if you think about that impact in the sense of how can you really expand who you're in front of and who you are influencing, I just thought it was, I love what they do, and I loved how many people they were able to reach. And so if you look at these posts, it might have a child in India, how can I register? I'm checking in from South America, I am Nigerian, I'm from Bangladesh. And so the reach of their summit and the number of families and people they were able to help with their event was just absolutely incredible and really inspiring. So, you know, the whole key with virtual events is that they do give you freedom. And so the nice thing is not only can you reach more people, but you can also do it from anywhere you have an internet connection, and you have the ability to live the life the way you want to live it. If you want to live, you know, in a city like I do in Chicago where there's a lot of people, or you want to go up on the mountaintop and live a more quiet life or a little slower life, as long as you got good internet, you can do whatever you need to do. The third key is profit. And again, I know we're in an interesting time right now, and there's still nothing wrong with operating your business so that it makes money. And so what I want to share with you in this section is just how do we make money off of virtual events? One thing is just to have a plan. And I know, again, that's like a duh, of course we're going to have a plan. And yet what I see happening a lot of times is that people, and this speaks to any event, really any event, but what happens is they plan an event and they get tied to hosting the event, and they don't plan well what's going to happen after the event or the journey that they want to take the attendees on. And so I always sit down with my clients at the beginning and say, all right, where are we going with this? What do we want to do with it? What's our goal, not just for this event, but also for your business, and how do we want to have it impact your business in a broader scope? Sorry, I'm getting my coffee in. So part of this comes through what I call upgrade package sales. So in particular, if the event itself is not paid, so the 3-day weekend that I did myself and I did for my client, those were paid events. So they weren't public, and you paid to enter. But a lot of times with the summit model, like what we're experiencing today, the event itself is no charge, but then where you can generate revenue is in selling what I call an upgrade package. And so that basically will contain the recordings of all the interviews, and then also some other items that are relevant to the audience, you know, and this can vary depending on what you have available. If you want to pull in some things from the speakers, or just how you want to put this package together. And this is something I help my clients with as well, is sitting down and really thinking about what makes sense to put in that bundle that will, again, really serve your clients and also will, you know, help you to leverage some content that you already have. We also want to make sure we have a really clear post-event plan. And again, I know this is kind of a duh, but, but again, I see people kind of starting this and beginning without the end in mind. We want to begin with the end in mind so we get that plan together. And here's what I mean by this. My client, Michelle, who does the Ready for the Right Guy, also does the Man Panel. And again, she's a relationship coach, and she's helping single women to with their dating skills and how to understand men. Man, this could be much more than just a 10-day event. But she does 2 summits a year. She does the Man Panel and she does Ready for the Right Guy. And what she generally does is host these events. She builds her built up her list. She offers content. She does a webinar after, and then she ends up filling her private coaching practice. She's an introvert. She lives in Utah. She doesn't like to travel. She likes to spend time with her husband. And she's not one of those people who likes to go speak at conferences and do all that. And that's why she's really relied on the summit model in order to not only build her email list, but also build her business. So she really likes private coaching. Now, because she's been so successful at this, and because she's been able to fill her private practice, now she also is playing with a membership site and with some group coaching programs. And so she has the ability and the flexibility to try different things out because she's got an audience and a following that she's built through the summits. Another client, Jackie Sabrin, who does Engaged at Any Age, also a dating coach. I have a lot of dating coach clients. she uses the summit model to build her email list, and then she offers a group coaching program. Now she does do some private, but she prefers the group model. And so that's the part of her business that she fuels after doing a summit. Dr. Venus Opal REESE, who is at Black Women Millionaire Summit, she actually ended up generating, between the summit and the everything after, she generated 6 figures off of her summit or if we look at the whole wind of everything. So she had this upgrade package sales. She sold into she offered a live event, which was a high price ticket to go to the live event. And then from that live event, she offered into a high-end coaching program. But even with those 3 points, she also had VIP clients that came through the summit. So between all of those price points, she generated 6 figures off of her event. And that was off of one event. So to recap, the virtual event secrets are to think about your promise, really leverage in your partnerships, and think about how you can profit, how you can leverage it, not only that event, but also stretching across all of the events. This is my client, Michelle, just saying, the summits have really been such a boon to her business and such a boon to helping her reach so many people and help so many people. And she has clients all over the world, most that she's never met. And in fact, she and I have worked together since 2014. We've never met in person. She's been my longest running client. I tell her she has the punch cards for the most summits ever produced by one person with me, but we've never met in person, which is really interesting. So my gift to everyone, I see there's questions coming in. I'm gonna go turn to those in a moment, and I want to share with you that I have put together a free gift. It's my virtual event checklist, and if you just go to virtualeventchecklist.com, you'll see it. Just enter your name and your email, and you'll get immediate access to it. And if you're thinking like, oh yeah, I really would rather just have a conversation, like, I know I have some things to discuss. Just when you get that email that comes after you enter your name and email, just hit reply to that. That goes directly to me. It's right in my box. I answer all of those, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you too. But go grab the virtual event checklist. It's free. It's just a nice overview of making sure you're thinking through everything that you need to think through in order to have a successful virtual event. So let's see, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna check this chat and see what we have, some questions. What's that? Oh yeah, you know what, that was a great point. Who put this thing in here? Let's see, we should have all, oh my gosh, Scott, we should have all bought stock in Zoom. You are so true. I've been saying that to people like, man, why didn't I think about that? Elizabeth says, WhatsApp is great. It only works when you're connected to the internet. That's a fantastic point. And it can be challenging when you're working from another country. Yeah, that's the good and the bad, right? A lot of people, my first exposure to WhatsApp was when I had friends who were traveling internationally and they didn't want to use their roaming or their data for text. And so they would use WhatsApp because when you're connected to the internet, it really helps with that. And the downside is depending on where you're going, if you don't have a secure connection, it can be a little bit rough for that. Let's see, Carla. Oh, Carla, hi Carla, yay. So great to see you. How do you manage encouraging attendance for a virtual event that used to be live? There's a few different ways, Carla. One way is that sending that care package that we talked about. So, having them feel like they're stepping into something a little bit different. Another way is to offer content that they can only get if they attend the actual event. So in other words, not just register for the event, but actually attend the event, offer some different content or some different opportunities. Depending on what the event is, it might be that they they're going to get an opportunity at the event to get some private coaching or to get their questions answered in a way that they wouldn't normally get, or get some time. A lot of times time with the lead facilitator or the head coach is something that you can offer that they can get if they show up at the event versus if they just register and then kind of check out a recording. So I would look at that. I would look at extra content, and I would look at helping them step into that role a little bit differently. So thank you, Carla. That's a fantastic question. And I know we're going to talk later. Carla and I have been trying to connect for a couple of days here. Elizabeth, do you have a structure or list of what works best as the post-event follow-up? Yes. Post-event follow-up, one of the things that makes sense, again, just take that pause for a moment and think about what makes sense for, where's the person at in the event as a result of going through your event, and then where do you want to take them? Where do you want to lead them that you know can help them? So part of what I do is super simple. Just making sure that they have, that you send out anything that you promised during the event. That seems like a little thing, but here's the thing. People will notice if you say, oh, I'm going to send you, like if I said, oh, everyone can get this virtual event checklist. And then you went there and it didn't work, or you didn't get the content delivered, or I never gave the URL. Scott, thank you, by the way, for putting the URL there in the chat so people can get to it. It's a little thing, and what's the word I want to use? It dings away a little bit at your integrity if you make a promise and then you don't deliver, even if it's something really little. So pay attention during your event. If you're saying, I'm going to send you the slide deck, or I'm going to send you a link to that podcast, or I'm going to send you this checklist or this template or whatever you've promised or whatever you've referenced in the event, make sure that you deliver that to the attendees. Another thing is just to make sure that the attendees feel very cared for with how you're going to follow up with them. Meaning, a lot of times, especially in the case of like any kind of event that you do where people now are on your email list, instead of just all of a sudden sending them a lot of emails or adding them to your email list, make sure that you send a message in between that says, thanks so much for signing. Thanks so much for attending this event. You know, here's whatever you need. And now you're going to hear from me regularly with, and let them know the interval at which you're going to email, and then also what to expect in those emails. So they are looking for the content and understanding that the content that you're going to deliver is going to serve them. So it's kind of bridging that gap. That's how to handle on an email side. The other thing I just think through is what, you know, again, that journey that you want to take them on. So if the idea is that you want to identify people who now would be good for private coaching, or would be good for group coaching, or you know, might be good for some other type of service that you offer, think through how you can lead them down that path. So it may look like offering a private strategy session or discovery call with those attendees. It might look like doing a webinar or some sort of training or some sort of virtual content delivery that at the end of that leads to them getting on the phone with you, or perhaps purchasing a digital course, or you know, taking that next step with you, signing up for group coaching. You can, depending on your event structure, depending on what kind of event you're doing, you can actually seed that during the event. And what I mean by that is for the virtual summit model, one of my clients loves to, in that upgrade package, because the event, remember, is free and then you pay for the recording. And one of the things she offers in that is a private session with her. So, you know, the 4,000 people who register for the event don't get direct access to her, but somebody who buys that upgrade package does get direct access to her. She gives a lot of value in that. And from there, she makes an offer for private coaching. And that's how she's able to build her private practice. So that's an additional follow-up, but it's a targeted follow-up on people who have kind of already raised their hand and said, yes, I'm interested enough that I'm going to invest in this upgrade package. And then they're a little bit more qualified leads, which is the easiest way to say it. So that's what I would say. Yeah, those are the key points. Hopefully that answers your question, Elizabeth. What a great question. All right, so if we have any other questions that are coming through, I'm gonna stop the screen share. I don't know if we have any others coming through. I'm looking. Scott or Elizabeth or Juliet, did you have anything that come through while we were here?
Well, here's a question that I get from my clients is, what do you do if what do you do if it bombs? What do you do if you make it at an offer and you think it's great and you get 2 people.
Right. Right.
Not that that would ever happen to you, but.
Oh, honey, it's happened to me for sure. I've had 0. Are you kidding me? I've been through, here's the thing. It's all a test. We get so attached sometimes to, I'm going to do this and I'm going to have this many clients, or I'm going to make this many sales, or this many strategy sessions. And it's all a test. And so when you make that offer and it doesn't, then you have to look at, okay, was it the offer that I made? Was there something, did I do a 1-hour webinar training and I made a $5,000 offer? There's a lot of that might not be enough know, like, and trust to buy that kind of offer. Or did I tell people, hey, I'm going to talk about, how to live your best life. And then the offer that I made was about email marketing. Is there a disconnect between the offer that you made and then, and what led them to that offer? Is there a disconnect between the leading and the offer? It could even be just as simple as how you framed the offer, and I know I've done this myself, because sometimes we know the value that we bring. We know we're going to deliver. We know that we get amazing results for our clients. And sometimes it feels weird to articulate that in an offer. And sometimes we step over how, what's the phrase? Yeah, what do I want to say here? Sometimes we just don't articulate it well because we know it so well, Exactly. And so we just say, like, oh yeah, we're going to do this thing, and it's, and it's only $4.97, and we know in ourselves that that's an incredible deal because we know what we're going to deliver, and yet we haven't given them enough information to understand why that's an incredible deal or how you're going to help them. That's been honestly one of my greatest journeys with that Lead Machine weekend is I know what happens in the room. I know I could deliver incredible results. I know the impact it makes on someone's business. And I'm not a very braggy person, and I'm not a very, like, hit people over the head with it. And so it's taken me a while to just get used to articulating the why, because I am so close to the why that it's like, of course. But I've had, my colleagues, when they talk with me and tease the why out, go, oh my God, I didn't realize that. And so it's kind of, it's an articulation often. Does that make sense? I feel like I answered a lot of the questions.
I noticed that you were using third-party endorsements in your presentation. You talk a little bit about why that ties into what you just said.
Yeah, it's because—
Connect the dots for us, please.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, that's a newer thing, right? I just added those probably in the last 6 months because I realized I needed to connect the dots for people. So it's different if I say, hey, I help my clients get great results. It feels different if a client says, LeeAnn helped me get great results. First of all, the delivery of it feels different. It feels, especially for those of us who don't like to brag and don't like to feel like we're being all braggadocious, like I freaking rock. For those of us who are uncomfortable with that, it lets somebody else say that for us. And quite frankly, it's much more powerful. And we all do this in our daily lives, right? If when you meet someone and they're like, I'm so amazing and I'm gonna like change your life, you're kind of like, oh, I don't know about that person. But if your colleague, if your friend comes over, if you're someone you trust comes over and says, oh my God, I worked with them and they were so incredible, here's why it was incredible, you go, oh yeah, I need to work with that person. So it's letting someone else speak the benefit for you, which by the way, they usually do better than you can anyway.
Do you ever suggest referral language if you're asking for a referral?
Absolutely.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, in fact, I have a process for this. So when I do those virtual summits, most of the people who appear on a summit are a potential client for me. Now they've been through the process. They've worked with me and with my team. And usually they're kind of going, should I be doing this? And so I always have my clients who are hosts do an introduction to those people, and I give them language. And the language looks like, it's gonna be off the top of my head because I haven't done it for a little bit. The language looks like, you know that I just did the summit. I generated these great results. I couldn't have done it without the help of LeeAnn. LeeAnn has helped me do X, Y, Z. I really encourage you to have a conversation with her, even if you don't want to work with her, or even if you don't want to host a summit. So even if you don't want to do X result, she's always looking for speakers for summits or for great people to connect with. And I know you two will enjoy each other. And so it sets it up so that, yes, they can work with me if they want. And even if they don't, we might be able to be referral partners or, you know, just support each other in other ways, and lets that conversation be a little bit more open.
Thank you. Yes, that's a great way to phrase it.
Thank
Great
you.
way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's worked really well for me, by the way. I've gotten a lot of clients from that.
I see a question from Scott here.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what are the people doing to drive 8,000 signups to their email lists? Facebook ads, buying traffic. What do you see in average audience ratios on a free summit?
Yeah. So great question, Scott. All of those signups that I mentioned, with the exception of one, let me think about this. The exception of one were free, with not buying traffic and not doing Facebook ads. It was all through leveraging that summit model. So being really careful about who was a speaker on the summit, making sure that they knew that there was an exchange for being a speaker, in the sense of, in exchange for being here, you're gonna market, and here's what we expect you to reach. And so it was really setting expectations at the beginning of that. Instead of, I'm a fan of getting the free traffic if you can, because I just feel like, man, Facebook ads, that's just such a, you know, God bless the people who can figure out how to actually drive results from that. But I find a lot of times it's a very expensive lesson that doesn't end up having a lot of results. I do know a woman who gets amazing results for her clients, but I think she's an amazing unicorn. For average attendance ratios on a free summit, I want to know if you can clarify a little bit what you mean. Do you mean like the number of people who register versus the number of people who show up? Yes. Okay, great. For a free summit in what I would call the traditional model, I would say the number of people who actually show up is probably like 10%. There are things you can do to increase that. What I like to see for people to do to increase that is to, instead of, you know, typically a summit will be multi-day, and the interviews are pre-recorded and then they're posted. And so what you can do to increase attendance is to have a free live event at the beginning and or at the end. And my client, Michelle Marchant, the dating coach that I talked about with the Ready for the Right Guy, she does a live event at the beginning. Typically it's a interview of someone. She's done like a live interview of John Gray, or things like that. And then she likes to do her man panel live interview. She's male dating experts live. And so people show up. And so she gets really good attendance on those. And by the way, that increases her sales of the upgrade package, because when people are live and you're in front of them, then they're more likely to take that next action, which in her case for that summit is to buy that upgrade package. So that's a way to increase those, instead of everyone being passive, then everyone gets to show up. Live, I do love. That's why I loved it today. I like getting those live questions, and I like the idea that people have access to me or to my experts or whatever in a different way than what they normally would. Hopefully that answers your question. One thing I will say in terms of, so we were talking about kind of in that summit world, I do want to make a note about in the webinar / 1 hour training world. I know a typical show up rate for something like that is like 25 to 30%, meaning the number of people who register versus the number of people who show up. When I do those trainings, I only offer them live. I don't record them. I don't send a recording. Because what I found is if you limit it in that way, you get more people live. And I always want to get more people live because I like the questions and I just like the energy. My last training that I did, I had usually average about a 50% show up rate. Last time I had 60% show up rate. And that's because I just only offer it live. I have found that most people, and I do this too, we all do this, right? I will sometimes sign up and then I'll be like, I don't really feel like attending. I know I'll get the recording. And then the recording will come and then I never go listen to the recording. Like never go listen to the recording, even for something I was super interested in. And so if it's only live, I will move stuff around my calendar if I'm really interested to go do that. So it's a way to get more people there and to get the people who are really, really, really interested. And talk about the follow-up with the ones who don't show up. So that depends, part of it depends on just what the event was that you were hosting. So what I usually do if it's something like what we were just talking about, right? So like a 1 hour training or a webinar, 2 hour, something like that. I will send to the people who did show up, whatever my call to action is, and I'll send them also a copy of the slides, or if there's any other content that I shared that goes only to the people who showed up. For the people who didn't show up, I'll send a message that says, we missed you. You know, I totally understand. So I'll acknowledge it. And I'll say, we missed you, and I know life happens, I know whatever. And you probably have some questions. And so for those people, I'll ask them to just hit reply and ask me any questions that they have. And what I find is that there's a segment of people who had some legit reason why they couldn't make it. And so they'll usually hit reply and say, gosh, you know, I really wanted to know about XYZ. And then I can usually get them on the phone and have a strategy session of some sort. And at the very least, just answer their question and kind of build that relationship with them. And then beyond that, they're usually just on my email list. So then they're trying to get the next opportunity to come see me. But I really focus more on the people who attended because they've stepped up a little bit more.
All right. Well, good stuff there, LeeAnn. I think we've come to the end of your session there. What's once again, the guys, that link out there, which is awesome. I mean, we've been doing virtual events. You've got some great nuggets on here that are great stuff. I love it. Yeah, we should have all bought stock in Zoom, GoToWebinar, WhatsApp, all that stuff.
I know. What an opportunity. We did right under our noses.
Thought about it and didn't take action. There we go.
I know.
So you can go to virtualeventchecklist.com, enter in your email, and you'll be get the list. Thank you so much for offering all that. Now, is there an event that's too small or too big that you would recommend converting?
No, I mean, I think I don't know. I can't imagine too small or too big. I mean, I think it does come to a vibe, right, that you want to feel. But here's one thing I'll say about that. Check your expectations for whatever event you're having, because what I have seen happen sometimes is people, you know, say, and again, I've done this myself, I'm going to have this event. I'm going to have, you know, 100 people on the training and it's going to be amazing. And then 20 people show up. And then you're like, well, it's annoying and everything. And there's like noise that goes through your head. And here's the thing, treat the 20 people who showed up.
Amen.
Those 20 people love you, they're into you, like rock on. It's, you know, it's awesome. So treat them with kindness and with love and deliver as if there were 1 million people on, because you don't know what's going to happen with those 20 people. So yeah.
That is so true. And can I'll share with you guys, I was on a webinar a while back and the woman was talking about the hundreds of people that were on, and literally she had the figure on the screen and it was 35. So think about that. She lost all credibility right then and there. It was crazy.
Oh no.
Was that a live event or a replay on that one?
No, it was a live event.
Wow.
I went in, it was one of my competitors. I was checking out what she was doing and I was like, oh, wow.
That's rough.
So,
And,
yeah,
you know,
be truthful about it.
You know?
Yeah, it's like, because no one cares. No one cares. There's some people who would say 20, that's amazing. Like, no one knows if you wanted 100. No one knows if you wanted 5.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Well, and that's the power of doing this over and over again. The first time, like you said, you get one person that shows up the first time you do it. Hey, it's one more than if you didn't. You know, got to give that love. Yeah. And I love that you shared the fact that, hey, if it's a replay event, you're probably only going to about 10% of people show up on a recorded event, or especially on a free event, because it just happens. You hit the nose on the head. But the live, that's why live is so powerful and impactful out there, because you're there, and that's, you know, when we've talked to so many people like, oh, hey, yeah, well, I want to pre-record. And I'm like, then you're not a part of the summit then.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I feel you. I like the energy of live. I was thrilled that this was live because I think it's fun. And you get the questions. And that's what the piece that I really love is making it, you know, relevant to whoever is actually here.
Yeah. Has there ever been a snafu, something that happened on a virtual event for you that just kind of, that you learned from something big from?
Oh, I learned something every single time. For live, of course, we've had people who didn't realize it was live. So they've been in, one time somebody was in like a stairwell because they were like, and on their phone instead of, you know, I've had people not show up. I've had people say, oh, I thought it was Eastern time, not Pacific time. You know, when I did my live all day last year, oh my God, it was like right at the point where I was having this weird techie thing and I had 2 computers up and one I was gonna have to restart, and I'm sorting that out as my next speaker didn't show. And so it was like, how many things can I try to do at one time? But what was great was there were people sitting there who sat with me the whole day and they were messaging me going, you're amazing, you've got this, we're with you, like you can do this. And I was just honest with them about what was happening so that, you know, and telling them I'm gonna figure it out. And so I think it really warmed them to the fact that nobody's perfect and that, you know, it's okay, she's gonna sort this out. And I did, and it was fine, so.
Yeah, I think anybody who's done this themselves can be really forgiving of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And now since the whole world has been doing Zoom calls, we get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Top of the hour is really hard because everybody's logging on.
Right.
Like that.
Right. Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, awesome. Great stuff, LeeAnn. We appreciate you so much coming on the Peace and Pivot Summit there. Great
Thank
stuff
you
out there.
so
Keep
much.
rocking.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to hike off and I will see you guys on the other side. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have an awesome day.
Thank you.